Welcome. I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics. Today, we'll talk with the mayors of two very successful cities in our region, Pat Burt of Palo Alto and Pat Showalter of Mountain View. Walk down University Avenue in Palo Alto or Castro Street in Mountain View, and you will see thriving downtowns. Both cities host major employers and benefit from strong tax bases. We'll talk about how their success was achieved, but also about how it's threatened by the dominance of large businesses and by office uses taking over downtown retail space. There's also a shortage of affordable housing in both cities, so thousands of people who work in Palo Alto and Mountain View can't live there. Later, we'll hear what some area residents think about retaining downtown retail by banning offices on the ground floor of buildings, and Bill Rankin will brief us on the work of Save Our Trails. Then, on Where Are They Now?, we'll talk with Chuck Davidson, who built over 50,000 units of rental and for sale housing in the Bay Area over the last 50 years. Welcome everyone, and welcome Mayor Pat Burt and Mayor Pat Showalter. You two are mayors of two very successful cities with booming economies and very strong tax bases, especially compared to the much larger city of San Jose. What was the secret of your success? Was it the good fortune of geographic location, or were there things your cities did to further their opportunities? Pat?
Well, I would say a combination of the two. We certainly had the great benefit of being the city that is the home of Stanford University. And so that was really the foundation. But then we've had a whole series of planning and governance and civic initiatives of owning our own utilities and doing early planning on determining what should be in the first technology park of Silicon Valley at the Stanford Research Park, and how to have our downtowns continue to be livable, walkable, human scale design. So it's a whole series of things.
What about Mountain View, Pat?
Yeah, I'd sort of have to follow suit on that. I mean, we're very fortunate. We're located close to Stanford, of course, and also close to that government science and military center that's Moffett Field.
Yeah.
And we're right on the edge of San Francisco Bay, which is a beautiful location, and we're right under the Pacific Flyway. So those are all, really fortunate things. But it hasn't been just luck. Mountain View has really been very deliberate to take steps to learn what the best planning and policy processes are, and really to follow those. And we've wanted to provide a balance of services, a balance of land uses and a balance of services and a balance of housing and a balance of office space, balance of transportation, so that we really create a community that's a great place to live and a great place to work. And I think our downtown is a real good example of how those actions paid off. We had a revitalization district that over the last 40 years we spent more than $120 million on community, on civic development, the City Hall, the Center for the Performing Arts, the library, and we have over 80 businesses there, and many restaurants. And our Caltrain station is the third largest one in terms of ridership on the system. So there have been many things that Mountain View has done on purpose that have worked. And but we've also been fortunate. I don't think it's wise to ever forget that.
Mayor Burt, Palo Alto is facing some challenges in recent years anyway, and you've raised some issues. I know the City Council is thinking about an ordinance to try to preserve retail on ground floor uses rather than having those uses converted to office, and you've expressed concern about large businesses absorbing so much space in downtown. What's the problem really, and what are some of your ideas for addressing it?
Well, we, like many cities, are going through the challenge of how do we retain services for our community, retail services and other valued services, as we see the pressures of the high value for office space squeezing out many of these things that people who live and work in the community vitally need. So we've had zoning for a long while that has had downtown retail protection ordinances on the ground floor, and we periodically update those. And we're in the process of doing that right now.
Yeah.
But in our downtown area, on the second part of your question, we've historically had our large technology businesses in the Stanford Research Park and a few other zoned areas of the city.
Not downtown.
Not downtown. And we've had some very famous startups that have occurred in downtown in recent years, of Google and LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest. And as they grow up and get to a few hundred employees or even fewer, they typically move on where they can then grow into space in millions of square feet and tens of thousands of employees. Our downtown area can't accommodate that. We have a little over 1 million square feet of total office there, 10 million in the research park. We've had a couple companies who have said, no, we think locating in the downtown is great and we're going to continue to expand there, and they're taking over and squeezing out basically the startup environment and the business support services that are vital to that. And so we're losing that incubator status of our downtown, which has been a really exceptional environment.
Mayor Showalter, are you having any of the same problems in Mountain View? Your downtown is successful in retail. Are there office uses putting pressure on that retail in Mountain View?
Well, I think the office uses really contribute to the retail. I mean, they provide customers for the retail. Also, we've added housing in downtown as we have throughout the community, and that's added additional customers too. So our retail sales are up about 56% over the last few years,
wow,
which is a lot. That said, we have really steep prices in the downtown. So. For office space. It's considered a very desirable location. We've zoned so that it handles more small to moderate sized buildings, businesses. If you really want to have a large business, it's better suited to be out in our North Bay Shore area, which is adjacent between 101 and the Bay. But we have, in Mountain View, we have over 4,000 corporations with business licenses.
And you're host to one of the most successful businesses in the world.
Google. Right.
Google. And your city council said no to Google, or said maybe not to Google, when they wanted to build a brand new headquarters. Most cities would be terrified to say no to such an important institution in their communities. What happened in Mountain View? How did the council get to that?
Well, it's really a little more complicated than that. First off, at the end of 2014, the Mountain View City Council approved a precise plan for the North Bay Shore area. That's really our big industrial park, which did not include housing. When the new council came in at the beginning of 2015,
that included you,
which included me, was really what I ran on. We said we absolutely want housing out there. Let's get the zoning and the planning started for that as soon as possible. And we directed staff to identify a residential planning area for that. But at the same time, we told staff to go forward with kind of a lottery that had been in the precise plan to award excess additional office space that was going to be allowed to be developed out there to the best projects. And Google was certainly one of the people who proposed. They actually proposed 4 projects, and the city council decided that we would exclude that residential zone, and a couple of Google's projects were in that. And we did that because we wanted to make sure that as the planning went forward, there would be room for housing in that zone. So we awarded the projects in the area outside of the residential zone, and Google did get one of those large projects, which is called the Landings. It's over 800,000 square feet, and because of a ground lease, Google has development rights for over 1.4 million square feet in the North Bay Shore. So although at that point in time there were a couple of projects that we said, no, we're not going to decide on these right now, that was more of a chronological issue from my point of view, and we're really looking forward to working with Google when we get the planning straightened out for the residential area to include them.
How did Google take it?
Well, they were a little upset at first, but we've talked to them many times about that, and they understand the process, and they're looking. Mountain View is their home, and they're committed to staying with us. As I understand it, I certainly hope they are.
Yeah.
And they've been a strong proponent of housing in the North Bay Shore all along, because it's really one of the best ways to mitigate the serious traffic problems we have. If we can build housing for people who out there, they can conceivably just walk to work instead of having to drive, and that should help all of our traffic.
So affordable housing is an issue in all of our cities in the
it's
South
huge.
Bay. What's Palo Alto doing, Mayor Burt? You have a slow growth movement politically in Palo Alto. How's that playing out? Are you managing to move forward on affordable housing?
We are. There's really two parts to it. One is the rate at which we have commercial growth, essentially office. And I think we have a stronger consensus in the community that we do want to slow that, and we've done that for the last 3 years. I've actually believed that reducing the rate of office growth, not putting a freeze on it, but just moderating the rate, then allows us to shift our emphasis on growth toward additional housing, which we had already designed to be shifting more to our downtown areas and along El Camino, where we really have strong transit and walkable services or pedestrian-oriented services. So we're now looking at the changes to the zoning, which will switch from commercial development in the downtowns to housing, and to looking at serving different demographics. So more of those units being for small units for young professionals and retirees, with very aggressive transportation demand management programs. So basically reducing the automobile trips generated. And that's the other key, that we're not only looking at that for the new development, but for our existing development. In our downtown, we're looking to reduce the single occupancy vehicles by 30% within 5 years. So that's a pretty radical transformation.
It's very ambitious, very ambitious. So again, both of you represent, to your good fortune, cities that are very successful, strong tax base, strong job base. San Jose is the largest city in the region. It's not so successful with its tax base. It's certainly not as successful with its job base. What's your advice to San Jose?
Well, I think San Jose will need to continue to evolve in its own deliberate manner. I would caution against trying to do sudden radical departures, but an evolution that makes it in a healthier orientation. Frankly, with the way that the tax structure has changed over the last 30 years.
That's post-Prop 13.
That's right.
Yeah.
The premise that businesses necessarily are economically good for local tax bases is no longer so clear-cut. If we look at retail and hotel businesses, those are great tax
Sales
revenues.
tax revenue, hotel tax revenue.
That's right. But software companies don't pay any sales tax anymore. And so all they're doing is paying what is now a reduced proportion of the property tax.
Yeah.
Residents are paying a higher proportion of property tax than before. So there's that economic benefit isn't really there for city government. Our schools benefit because we're a basic aid district, and so that increased property tax for them benefits the schools, but not the city per se. And we'd be interested in really San Jose's analysis on that. But we do have very important regional issues on transportation and housing.
Pat Showalter, what's your advice?
Well, I had to laugh when I saw this question here, because honestly, I wouldn't presume to give San Jose advice. I mean,
Gee, everybody else does.
but on the other hand, we certainly enjoy partnering with them on areas of mutual interest. I think what Mayor Burt said that's really, really, really vital is that, most of these issues that are facing our communities are really regional issues. They don't stop at our boundaries, so we need to work on them in a regional area, a regional focus. And San Jose, Sam Liccardo has, and this council has really tried to reach out and help with those regional issues, and that's important. And I think we all need to take part in this. I know from Mountain View's point of view, one of the things we're really serving as a great example on is increasing our housing supply. I mean, we've underbuilt in the Bay Area for a mere 40 years, and we have a lot of catching up to do, and everybody needs to do their part. And I think San Jose and Mountain View and Sunnyvale too, we've really stepped up to the plate, and we need our sister cities to do that. I'm glad to hear that Palo Alto is doing the planning that lays the foundation for that, because we have so many new jobs now. We need places for these people to live that are close enough so that our traffic isn't just incredibly ensnared.
Well, it is important that we think as a region. I really appreciate both of you being here and giving us a little advice in San Jose. Mayor Pat Showalter, Mayor Pat Burt, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Now let's hear what some San Jose residents have to say about retaining downtown retail by banning offices on the ground floor of buildings. Then Bill Rankin will brief us on the work of Save Our Trails.
To keep it, to have more like restaurants and like shopping, like retail stores, I think would be a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. I don't think it'll make any difference to the office space in terms of the amount of it that's available, and it will allow retail to stay in downtown and places where the offices are pushing them out. Because we need merchants everywhere, and so I think it's a good idea to.
I think we should absolutely do that. I think we should have retail on the first floors of whatever we're building, commercial or residential, and then put offices and homes above. But we're doing a great job right now on increasing housing supply downtown. Not affordable housing, not enough affordable housing, but housing. But we're so lacking in retail, and that keeps people from having more reasons to be downtown and to be downtown at all times of the day and on weekdays and on weekends.
I think it's important to maintain the retail presence, to attract people in, to serve the local community and so on, and not just transient office workers, as it were. They'll come and go but aren't, part of the fabric of the community. So I think it's important to have it for that reason. But I think there's just got to be a good balance, so higher-rise buildings with offices but retail on the ground floor is a good thing.
Hi, I'm Bill Rankin, President of Save Our Trails. We are a Santa Clara County-based trail advocacy group. Promoting trails for the benefit of all is what we do. We know San Jose is a trail enthusiast's dream. Flat terrain leading to hills, year-round mild climate, and beautiful creeks with native wildlife, including the Guadalupe, Los Gatos, and Coyote Creeks. Save Our Trails is a leading advocate for Santa Clara County trails, and we also work directly with the City of San Jose, helping it to reach its goal of a 100-mile network of connected trails. Save Our Trails is actively promoting many trail connections. We have teamed with Friends of Stevens Creek Trail to help connect Stevens Creek Trail from the Bay Trail to the Ridge Trail. We are working with San Jose towards connecting the Los Gatos Creek Trail from Meridian Avenue to the confluence with the Guadalupe, and helping to get walkers and cyclists to Diridon Station. We are working with the Ridge Trail to help develop the Silicon Valley Loop Trail, and we are working with Friends of Five Wounds Trail on Three Creeks Trail, the former Willow Glen Spur Railroad line that will connect western San Jose to eastern San Jose, and Five Wounds Trail that will connect to BART. Save Our Trails is made up of citizen advocates and trail users just like you. Join our mailing list for the latest information on the trail networks, and of course to participate in trail cleanup days along with our other trail advocacy groups. Learn about our partner agencies, Friends of Five Wounds Trail, Bay Area Trails Collaborative, Rails to Trails Conservancy, the City of San Jose Trails, Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, the Ridge Trail, Santa Clara County Open Space Authority, and Friends of Three Creeks Trail. Transportation agencies are relying on a robust trail network to get riders to and from public transportation stations car-free. San Jose's Greenprint calls for a reduction in car trips, and trails are an effective off-street path to those stations. Save Our Trails meets every other month and would love to have your support as a fan, as a friend, as a trail volunteer, or check out membership and be a card-carrying member to show your support of expanding the trails network in the region. Let's get to 100 miles of trails in San Jose. Now is the time to secure land and continue the momentum. See you on the trails.
Next, we'd like to introduce you to Chuck Davidson, a very successful housing developer who's also been one of the most colorful characters and one of the most effective advocates in San Jose politics for decades. Here's Chuck. We're here in the offices of Chuck Davidson. Chuck has been a major builder and a mighty force in San Jose and Silicon Valley politics for over half a century. Welcome, Chuck Davidson. Let's get started by you just telling us how you got to be in San Jose and what you've done in your career here.
I came to San Jose, 62 years ago last year.
62 years ago.
No, 64 years
64 years ago.
And my first job was as a surveyor for the State Highway Department on doing Route 17 from Stevens Creek Road to Los Gatos.
Wow.
And that goes a long ways back.
Yeah.
There was no freeways built then.
Things we take for granted now.
Things you take for granted now. And then I went into business for myself at the start of 1960, and it's just been up and away ever since.
Well, you left out something very important. You're a graduate of San Jose State University,
that
right?
I am.
All right.
I did not have my degree yet when I came out here. I had some college, and I went back to San Jose State and got my degree. And that I'm very proud of them.
And of course, you've been a great benefactor to San Jose State, so we should say thank you very much for that.
Yes.
Charles Davidson College of Engineering at San Jose State University.
Yes.
Great thing to do, Charlie. Thank you. Chuck, your companies have built over 50,000 rental and for-sale housing units in the Bay region and thousands in San Jose, including many units of low-income housing. That's an unusual commitment for a builder. Why the commitment to low-income housing?
I'd rather make that's my core. That's my core, low-income housing. I'd rather make a little bit of money off of low-income housing than make a lot of money off of expensive housing, and I've done both. But that's my core, and I think I was the biggest individual builder of low-income housing in the Bay Area. And the fact that thousands of families over the years have had a safe, livable, affordable place to live, that makes me feel good.
As you know, we're hurting for affordable housing in the Valley, famously hurting for affordable housing here in the Valley. But you managed to build a lot of low-income and affordable housing during your career, sometimes with government support. But I wonder if you think builders could do the same thing today. Is it still possible to build the kinds of things you built?
Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could.
Yeah.
But we're frozen out now. And you really need private industry to have any meaningful numbers. But we're frozen out between the cost of land and the fees that are on there, the red tape that you got to go through, and in honesty, the lack of political will on the part of the various governments. We're just totally frozen out. So what we do, some of us do, the low-income housing is delegated to the nonprofits. Mm-hmm. Well, they have limitations on how much they can do. But the nonprofits, part of their skill set is not architecture and building. So they have to have an architecture and a builder on board. And right next door here, I have a construction company that exclusively builds for nonprofits, pretty big time. We do nothing else but rental units for nonprofits. So yeah, I still got my foot in the door, but it's just in a different way.
Well,
And I wish I could have my foot in the door all the way. But I do what I can.
well, we certainly need more affordable housing
Oh,
around here.
it's more acute now, Terry, than
Yeah.
it ever was. It's
Re-
terrible.
Really tough. So back in the 1980s, you said, I'm going to quote you here, "The greatest thing we've got going for segregation is the general plan. The zoning assures that all the rich people are supposed to live in the Almaden Valley. The poor people live on the east side. I get my backbone up whenever one of these lily-white neighborhoods says you can't put those people here." Do you think that's still true? Do you think that's still true about the general plan in the
Yes,
city of
it
San
is,
Jose?
because that quotation was made when I was a guest lecturer in one of your classes at San
It
Jose
was?
State years ago. And
I didn't remember you said it there.
here's the thing. You put all the low density in one part of town and the high density in another part of town, you got economic segregation. If you got economic segregation, you got segregation.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And, over the years, I've fought putting these various projects, affordable or not affordable, and for the most part, I was successful.
You started building in this area in the 1960s, and you really came to prominence as a builder in the 1970s on into the 1980s. And to me, the irony of that is that's exactly the time when the city council, a majority on the city council, started to turn against rampant growth, sprawling growth, suburban style growth. Mayor Janet Gray Hayes was elected in 1974, and the council was looking more at managed growth, controlling growth, infill development. How did you succeed as a developer, developing hundreds of units of housing in a time when the council was not favorably disposed towards that kind of building?
Well, first thing you understand, you got to know your subject. You got to know what you're talking about. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you got to be trustworthy. And I'll use you as an example on something. There was a guy named Joe Cola on the city council.
I remember Joe.
Back in the late 60s through the 70s. And he voted no on the city council probably more than anybody has ever been on the council.
He was known as
no.
Mr. No.
Yeah. I don't know whether Joe ever voted no on me or not, but when he got off in the council, he was downtown one day with some of his old cronies, and they were giving him hell because of the fact that he had voted for me so many times along the way. And Joe said he comes with good projects. If you come with a good project, I'll vote for you too. And that's the thing. If you got the ability to tell what's a good project and what isn't a good project. What a lot of people didn't know is I turned down more projects than I took.
Let me read you a couple of quotes about you from some of our past mayors. First one's from Tom McHenry. He was mayor from 1983 to 1990. And Tom said, "Charlie Davidson wasn't just Janet Gray Hayes' kitchen cabinet, he was the whole house. Mayors come and go, but people like Chuck will have power long after." And Tom also said, "Chuck's very, very good at showing people the easy way to make a bad vote." So he didn't think all your projects were so great, right?
He voted for half of them anyway.
He did?
Yeah. Tom voted for at least half of my projects. And he was correct when he said mayors come and go and people like Charlie stick around forever.
Yep.
And but the thing of it is, if he bad votes, Terry, and the hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of projects that I did, you cannot point to one project that adversely hurt the community that's not an asset to the community. The one out next to where, close to where you live, is a good example
Yeah.
of that. I don't do bad projects. Never did do bad projects. People that voted for me never did make a bad vote. A bad vote or a good vote is in the eye of the beholder.
Susan Hammer, who was mayor after Tom McHenry, said, "Chuck has a lot of influence around City Hall. He plays the game and he's very skillful at it." I guess you'd accept that.
Mostly. You got to
Mostly.
be, if you're in the building and land use business,
Yeah.
you better be skillful at it or you're going to go broke. And it's not a game. It's deadly serious.
We'll continue our interview with Chuck Davidson next month. Meanwhile, you can catch up on previous shows on our website at creatvsj.org or on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose. You can let us know what you think about the show and suggest topics or future guests by email at valleypolitics@creatvsj.org, on Twitter at valley_politics, and by following us on Facebook. And now, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching Valley Politics.